I never set out to be a black broadcaster. I set out to be a broadcaster who happened to be black. There is a difference. When I walked into ESPN in the 1990s, sports television had a sound. It had a rhythm. It had a certain way it thought it was supposed to speak. Clean, controlled, polished, but also narrow. I did not wake up one morning and decide to disrupt anything. I simply refused to separate who I was from what I did. I grew up loving sports. I grew up loving language. I grew up loving the way people in my community talked about the game. That language had flavor, it had rhythm, it had soul. And when I stepped onto a national platform, I brought that with me. Some people called it different. Some called it risky. Some called it unprofessional, but the audience called it real. Authenticity is not rebellion. It is alignment. When who you are matches how you speak, people feel it. And when people feel it, they trust you. In my ESP's speech in 2015, I said something that still matters. I said that when you die, it does not mean that you lose to cancer. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live. That was not about disease. That was about definition. Systems will always try to define you. A diagnosis will try to define you. A job title will try to define you. A network will try to define you. Even your success can try to define you. But the only real power you ever have is how you live inside the system. When I brought hip-hop cadence and cultural expression to national sports television, I was not trying to perform culture. I was trying to reflect it. I was trying to widen the frame so that more people could see themselves in it. Representation is not decoration, it is access. When a young kid sees someone who sounds like him breaking down highlights on a national broadcast, that expands possibility. When a young girl sees a woman on air asking sharp questions and owning the space, that expands possibility. Media is not just entertainment, it is imagination training. Sports media is powerful because sports is one of the last shared cultural spaces in this country. On any given Sunday, millions of people who disagree about almost everything will sit down and watch the same game. That means the voice guiding that moment carries weight. A broadcaster is not just describing a play. A broadcaster is shaping how that play is remembered. Tone matters. Word choice matters. Whose story gets centered matters. When I said cool as the other side of the pillow, it was playful, but it was also intentional. It was a reminder that professionalism does not have to be bland. Excellence does not have to be stripped of personality. You do not have to flatten yourself to fit a system that was not designed with you in mind. You can expand the system instead. Now let us talk about ownership. Athletes generate billions in revenue across television contracts, merchandise, sponsorships, and digital media. The National Collegiate Athletic Association's television rights for the men's basketball tournament alone are worth more than $1 billion per year under long-term contracts. Professional leagues sign media deals that stretch into the tens of billions. Yet for a long time, the people on the field had limited control over the stories told about them. Limited control over their image, limited control over how their voices were framed. When your voice is filtered, your leverage is limited. The moment athletes began building platforms on their own through social media, something shifted. The narrative did not belong exclusively to the network anymore. It became shared. That shift is not just technological, it is structural. If you control your voice, you influence your market value. If you influence your market value, you influence negotiation power. If you influence negotiation power, you influence ownership. Voice is the front door to leverage. But leverage requires discipline. It requires understanding contracts. It requires understanding revenue flows. It requires understanding that popularity without structure can be temporary. I learned early that success is not just about being seen, it is about being respected. And respect is earned through preparation, through study, through showing up every day and doing the work. You can be cool and still be prepared. You can be authentic and still be precise. You can be yourself and still master the system. The system may not have been built with you in mind. That does not mean you shrink. It means you study it. You understand it. You widen it. And when you widen it, you do not just change the broadcast. You can celebrate excellence with a boo-yah and still read the fine print in the contract. You change what people believe is possible. Live strong, live bold, live aligned. And never forget that your voice, when grounded in truth and discipline, is more powerful than you think. Stay cool as the other side of the pillow. Until next time.